Okay, I'd like to declare the regular board meeting of the West Valley Sanitary District. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Borstein?
Yes.
Kelly?
Here.
Meigs?
I'm here, way out there, here, but there.
Scylla? Here.
Anyway, yes.
Gaffney?
Present. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 2 is adjourned to closed session. Okay. I'd like to reconvene the open session. Item 5 is a report on action taken by the board. There is nothing to report on closed session. Item 6 is approval of agenda. We do have some guests here, but except for the consent calendar, they're next up, so I think we're okay with the agenda.
I'll move then. I move we approve the agenda.
Second?
Okay, it's got to be a roll call vote. Any further discussion?
No.
Roll call?
Borstein?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Meigs?
Yes.
Scylla?
Yes.
Gaffney?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Now it's open time for public to raise items not on the agenda or for future agendas, and I don't see any public here. Thank you. Committee reports out. The Finance Committee, Michael Borstein and I had a long meeting with staff, went over most of the agenda items. The one thing on the consent calendar, we received the Certificate for Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association. Thank you, Felicia and Melvin.
And Melvin.
Right?
Yeah.
And others. And how many straight years have we received that? A lot.
8.
8. That's really good. And that's part of our disclosure and
High rating.
transparency and everything else. And it helped our credit rating with S&P.
Didn't hurt.
And then we did talk about, well, we talked about a lot of these items and went over the financial information in some excruciating detail, which we can go over again if we want. So that's Finance Committee. Michael, you have anything to add to that?
No.
The next one is
Afterwards, the
CMSA.
Finance Committee
I'll-
did
I'll
go.
do CMSA.
After that, the Finance Committee did go by the Larkspur Landing and witness the first scoop.
Oh,
Yeah, first scoop of dirt being pushed around.
on Monday that was?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Okay, Central and Sanitation, we did have one issue that came up, didn't go exactly how I would have liked to have seen that, and that was the commission officers. I had proposed, and I would do the same thing here. We had a resolution from the town of San Summer where we said essentially the clerk of the board would keep an account of consecutive service years, and that it was the intention that people rotate through and that the vice chair becomes the chair. And in the case of CMSA, I was suggesting that the treasurer become the vice chair and the vice chair become the chair and everybody circle around. But Sanderfeld didn't go for that. And so we're stuck with a situation which I'm not pleased with at all, which is we had, CMSA used to have that, and they circulated the board members as board presidents every year. And that stopped a few years ago, a number of years ago, when Ross Valley didn't play nice. And so they had 5 years, one person, 5 years, another person, 5 years, another person. So right now we have one of the San Rafael reps, who's wonderful, I think he's great. But I don't feel we should have them on for 5 years. I don't think it's the right for the community, and I don't think it's right for the board. In fact, we pay half their bills, and we're sort of frozen out of being the board president. So we agreed that we would look at that another year. I wanted to say that it wasn't my intention, Dean is the one who represents us as the board president, and when that vacancy came up, he took that position, and that was fine with us. And I was not going to suggest he not be reappointed for another year anyway. because I thought it would be unfair for him to only have 6 months. So there's really no harm, no foul, but I'd like to prepare us for next year and say, you know, some of the words that Mary Beth Bushy came up with, trust, and like, who do you not trust? Do you not trust Michael? Do you not trust him? And I'm not using the word trust, I'm using the term, you know, everybody, she brought up that in San Rafael, the mayor runs the meetings and they don't vote. And I said, well, that's because you'd all go to jail if you did that. The mayor is elected by the people.
Yeah, that's a directly elected position.
It's a charter city.
Yeah.
They have the
You
mayor.
have to do it that way, it's the law. Nobody else in any other district, jurisdiction, MMWD, city, town, village, hamlet, school district does it that way. So I think next year we're going to address this.
I actually spoke with Jason today. I went over to their barbecue, and it's going to be brought up that we're going to have a policy. And
Well, that was my idea.
I know.
Have a policy. Policy we shot down. No, let's not have a policy.
No, but we're going to,
Anyway, but anyway, so next year.
But one San Rafael representative didn't want it, did Corte Madera? Did you? did it
I'll
come
be
to
honest
you?
with you, no, we didn't really come to it. So what we did is,
No.
and I'll be honest with you, the dean wasn't there, so he didn't speak for himself. His alternate was there. It was really Mary Beth Bushy and I going back and forth, and then at one point, Dan Hilmer, who completely agreed with me, it's on film, the last time, didn't agree with me this time, said, do you want to ask the other two? And I said, not really. We can address it next year, because I was going to suggest that Dean stay anyway, so I just, you know, and Dean won't be on next year, so the whole thing will change.
Who was the alternate for Sanitary?
What's his name again?
I don't remember.
It's a lady.
No.
It wasn't he, was it?
No.
Fabulous guy, he's very nice, very smart. He was on the ball. He was a smart guy. I like him. But again, I think we should have a policy here as well. I think, you know, you don't, well, I'm sorry. Let me be clear about the policy we did in San Anselmo, because it's kind of a conflict. What we said is the clerk of the board will have a rotating, who's senior on a consecutive basis, and that it's the intention that generally everybody serves, but that the new mayor will be the person with 3 votes. And I hate to say this, it's the second time in the public meeting, but that was because the vice mayor at the time was suing the town. And we were not going to rotate the vice mayor into the mayor's slot at the very meeting when we came up with this policy. So the policy had kind of an out, which was, but all things being equal, the person who will be the next chair or mayor or whatever is the person who gets 3 votes. And that was the policy. And with that, we then passed on the vice mayor, and we voted somebody else's mayor, and I became the vice mayor, so he didn't get that job. And so I think policies are a good idea. I support them. What else we did at CMSA?
We came to an agreement with Marin Airporter.
Yeah, this was really good, and this is Michael.
And they hashed out all the lease numbers, and they'll be paying us about, what, $6,000 a month? Upwards of over $5,000 a month for parking to use part of an unused corporation yard to park some Marin Transit buses, which will benefit everybody.
The value of that over 5 years, because it's a 5-year commitment, is about $350,000. And this really came from Michael, and I really commend you for doing that. I think it was a great use of the unused land at CMSA. It's a great way of serving the community and sharing services, and I think it really benefits everybody in the community. So I'm really pleased that happened. We did agree to buy some new financial software. They had a finance person that served in the early 80s, and then they served for 8 or 10 years, and they went away, and they served somewhere else for 15 years, and they came back as a part-time basis, and he said, oh my God, you're still using that software that I had when I came here the first time. So the software is from the 80s, it's DOS-based. Only a couple of people know how to use it, and so we did agree that we need to have some up-to-date technology. So we approved the contract with Tyler Technologies. I believe it was $140,000 with a $20,000 a year ongoing help desk. We did ask that Jason look at the help desk, because the help desk is 7 by 24 by 365. And I said, we need to find out if they have help desk like my company does, which is option 1 is 7 by 24 by 365, and the option 2 is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. How many people are calling about an accounting problem on Christmas Eve?
Oh, I see, yes.
So we'll see if there's a different ongoing. We approved the business plan.
You're going to get a sleepy accountant.
Yeah, that's right.
Or one in India.
And we also agreed in another example of sharing services. is that we're looking at an evaluation of taking primary sludge from Sausalito to put in our digesters. If we bring in more food waste, there's a certain amount of food waste you can add, but then it can't be more than the sludge. So by taking in Sausalitos, we're going to save them money. We're going to use that to create energy, and they're looking at higher costs. And so
And you're going to charge Sausalito.
we're going to charge Sausalito, but they're going to save money.
Yeah.
We're going to save them money, but charge money. So once again, CMSA is making money, but sharing services, and I think, again, that benefits the ratepayers of both districts.
Very good.
So I was really pleased with that.
And also, a month ago, one day after we started actually producing energy and sent it out to Marin Clean Energy, and we'll get a nice little check for 1 day worth of energy. Our cogen engine exploded, and there was trying to figure out what's going on. We're paying over $50,000 a month in PG&E bills over there now, which were zero, or as close to zero as possible. When the cogen engine was running, they had two different possibilities, and the possibility that we chose was there's an engine in Ohio that's fully, almost ready to go. It is actually currently, they took it apart, they tuned it up, they put it all back together. We're sending a guy out there to watch him turn it on and test it to make sure it really does work, and we should have it shipped out in the next few weeks. There'll be a rigging crew will come out, set it up, and we hopefully will be back online within the month. We're flaring a lot of biogas.
Let me expand on that just a little bit. We bought a new engine, and this one needed to be repaired, or it was up for its major maintenance. We hoped that major maintenance was going to be in 8 months, and then we had the new one coming in, and then we do the major maintenance, and this would be our backup. So in this case, the major maintenance happened a lot faster. And it's a requirement, so we're doing the major maintenance on this one, and then in about 8 months, when the new one comes in, it'll still be our backup, but it'll be in great shape, and it won't have to be major maintenance. So that was unfortunate, and it was not a day. It wasn't a day. It was an hour. It was an hour. It was running for an hour before it blew up.
Maybe it was the wrong voltage.
No, at any rate, it was a short time. But anyway, it's good. So I think we've got things under control now.
Okay. Well, that's good. Actually, we're making, as opposed to previous history, we're making great contributions to CMSA.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Okay, thanks. Pamela, North Bay Watershed.
I was in Canada, but I want to say thank you, Michael, for being innovative. Do we get any of that money?
Well, yeah.
Sure.
You know.
In lesser bills.
Yeah,
Indirectly.
indirectly.
Anyway, no, I wasn't there, I was in,
Well,
somewhere in Canada.
I was there representing CMSA, and I'll give a little report here. Here's the latest and actually greatest from the North Bay Watershed. Okay. Here, there's 3 over there. That's just the latest brochure from what we're up to that we have been working on and what our mission is and all that good stuff. We had a guy who was Ken Schwartz from Horizon Water and Environment Information and Board and Environment, and came to speak with us about One Water ideas for the North Bay. Last month we had a woman from San Francisco come and speak about One Water, where we had all the different silos, and they're talking about trying to make them work together, and apparently it's a little bit difficult over there, but they're really trying to do something. Anyway, just very quickly, this was just talking about how the whole North Bay is going to try and, using our new vision for the North Bay Watershed Association, try to work more collaboratively and really look to solve problems. Like if the Ross Valley Sanitary District came up with something to do that really affected the North Bay, could NBWA work together and collaboratively and help us out here, and we help others, and it's really interesting. So anyway, I could drone on about that, but they also, I'll leave this up here. This is the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority. that we're heavily involved with, and this is their annual report, so we should probably have that. Let's go on from there.
Okay. Item 9 is verbal report by board members and staff, and requests for future items. Any verbal reports by board members?
Just one, go ahead, Pam.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You go,
I
Pam.
have a couple of policies that was hoping maybe the board to consider. One is after going to the leadership conference, which is absolutely fabulous, by the way. There were, I was talking about policies for districts, and one I asked Steve about is how do we use our credit card? And we don't have a policy, so if we could probably just get a template from CSDA. And then the other one I was thinking about is legislation, that if we have a political stance through CSDA on potential legislation, how can the board sort of filter it and talk about it and come together as a group because that's what they want you to do. They want you to sign letters in support or not support. And I thought that might be really a better way to be more transparent about it. So the good news is that CSDA probably has these already in template, like I said, so it wouldn't be too hard to do. But those are just two ideas that sort of crossed my mind while I was at the conference. I think that's it for now. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to just point out that we requested a long time ago that we have signs put up where work's being done, and I'm seeing them everywhere, and I really appreciate that. So the big orange signs, RVSD work, it's on the Miracle Mile for that work. It's right on my street floor bell for work that's going up on Scenic. And there's been signs put everywhere, and so I'm grateful for that. I think it helps. I think it lets people know, you know, it's not MMWD, and you know, people complaining that we're not doing our jobs years ago. We weren't probably years ago, but there's signs everywhere, and so I think that's good. I appreciate that very much.
Anything else from the board? I just wanted to say that I've gotten some comments from people that live on Butterfield, and so I told them, you know, it's a very complicated project. They're, you know, it's down to a single lane now a lot of the time. And I told them, go to our website and just click on the project, and you'll get the full information on it. And when the fellows did it, they said, "Oh, it was really terrific."
Actually, yeah, I used the website for the first time in a long time, and I wanted to pull up some of the old board minutes, and it's all there. It's quite amazing. I think that's thanks to MB5 as well, right? And their website. For many years, we had sort of a static, virtually static website.
Good. Okay, staff reports.
That's great, thank you for those reports. I'll go through a few items relating to some of what was just discussed. I did attend the California Special District Academy, the Leadership Academy, for first-time attendees, being a new general manager. And in that agenda, we went over items that we're kind of living day to day. You know, but there's issues of general governance and also strategic planning, which was given by Brent Ives, who was your strategic planning consultant a couple of years ago. So it was good to hear from him and connect with him. And then there was a financial overview, which relates to all that work we did with the sewer rates and capital planning and that sort of thing. So it was good. It was reinforcing and you know, and take an example of the financial plan and policy that we have mirrors pretty closely what they recommend. And I think Felicia, under your leadership, you know, and the board, you know, leading up to me coming here, you've done a lot of good work. So that's what I was learning, is how much is being done correctly these days. We also on communication, and you know, MB5 assists us with that. But we guide MB5. They have great ideas, but we are also, our team, you know, takes communication seriously. We hear from you, you know, and you see that those messages are getting out there, and we think that's important too. And so in getting training on communication, I felt like we were ahead of where they are as far as what was connecting day to day to the ratepayers. So that was nice to see. And then Pam Meggs also attended with me, and she noted, so it was good for us to be out there. And the Special District Association is not just sanitary districts and water districts, but it's the whole range, you know. So we've mixed with people from mosquito abatement districts, a lot of community services districts and such. I sat next to some folks from Florala. That's really interesting. They've got 2 people with their sewer system. So felt blessed. Look at a little bit more. So Director Meggs mentioned legislation, and actually I had planned anyway to let the board know that CSDA did ask us to send an opposed letter to a bill, Assembly Bill 1486, which would, from Assembly Member Tang, which would impose more restrictions on special districts' use of surplus land. And so I read the proposed letter that they had, and they asked to put some details on why it would be of concern to our district. And needless to say, you know, in our discussions, transparent discussions about revenue bonds and financing of capital projects and financing of the cleanup of the Larkspur landing site, we have a lot of interest that is resonant. It resonates with where CSDA is going with their concerns that they've expressed. So after a couple of inquiries to us to write a letter, I connected with Board President Gaffney and we went over a letter. We did submit a letter opposing that bill unless it were amended.
And it was CASA too, requested that we write a letter.
Yeah. That's going to come up, you know, we have, I don't know, I mentioned this, I think I did. I didn't tonight, but another time. CMSA, when they want all that land, they want some land across the street. And it turns out it's 40 acres. And it's not perfect for building, and it's certainly not for homes because, you know, you're next to a sewage plant. But it's not impossible that we would make some money there by selling some land there for a commercial building. That could be on the top. I mean, there's a 270-degree view of the water up there. And so that's important to us. I'll look at what 1486 does, and you know, it's already pretty restrictive as it is.
Well, and the point there was really the proposed bill is doing things for the right reason, which is focused on affordable housing and that sort of thing. So our point to them wasn't that it was a bad idea per se, but that we're already working under existing incentives to accomplish those same goals, working cooperatively with the city of Larkspur. And so, in our opinion, you know, in the letter, we voiced the opinion that this wasn't necessary to achieve the goals that the bill's author is trying to achieve. That we're working in the same direction at any rate. It's just the concern is this is an asset of the district, and its disposition has an effect on our net position. And we're concerned that any policy that would change that.
It does, if I look at it, it does say that it's surplus land, meaning that it's less than 5,000 square feet. So it wouldn't apply to Larkspur land, would it?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I think that might be one of the exceptions in the law, in the existing law.
Okay.
It doesn't apply, it's less.
No.
Yeah.
No, existing law defines surplus land for these purposes, land owned by
Okay.
less than, okay.
We'll check up on
All
that.
right.
Let's keep moving on. Speaking of Larkspur Landing Project, it was initiated, you mentioned in passing, groundbreaking was this week. In terms of the first grading, we actually did work on the site last week for construction entrances, gravel roads. We obtained a grading permit from the city of Larkspur last week as part of a 3-month process. And tonight, we are on the consent calendar of the City of Larkspur City Council, and our consultant, Tom Miller, is there to get permission to do grading and hauling on Saturdays, because the City of Larkspur grading ordinance prohibits grading work on Saturdays in the city limits. That's not a universal prohibition. Other jurisdictions allow it. And so we needed to get an exception from the City Council. And that has an impact on our schedule. If we are able to work on Saturdays, we very likely will not complete the project this calendar year. We still may have challenges completing it this calendar year, but that would really make it pretty impossible. So And facts on the consent calendar speaks to our cooperative relationship with this Public Works Director, Julian Skinner, and they're really looking for ways to facilitate our completion of the project.
How much did we pay for the building permit? Did we pay Larkspur?
I'm going from memory, it was in the order of 15,000 and change for the grading permit, but it was a $5,000 cost recovery deposit for their services or for their hiring consultants. Our contractor paid $5,000 for an encroachment permit, I believe. So there are different permit fees.
It was also very interesting, just very quickly, there were archaeological people on site, just in case, as we start digging, we find some Native American,
Which is on our consent calendar.
on our consent.
Yeah, it's true, but that's
They were
very-
there and that was impressive, marching around.
That's important, yeah, and it's an important aspect of the environmental review and requirements for mitigation measures that we need to implement as part of
There
construction.
there was an archaeologist and a member of
The Great Rancheria.
Yeah, the Indian.
Yeah.
Good. And so we have some of these floating around. These are handouts, two-sided page that NV5 helped us put together. And the project information sheets for the Larkspur Landing project that were mailed to, I believe, 680, how many people? 580?
Yeah, something.
580 addresses, every address in the city of Larkspur west of I-101, or, Highway 101. So, everything, Larkspur Landing, all the businesses, Marin Country Mart. And we received one inquiry from the local HOA to learn more about the project so far, and that was at the beginning of this week. So our plan is to have these available. We have a sign erected at the entrance to our facility, a banner that NV5 helped us put together, and then we'll have a little, one of those plastic holders where we put these information sheets in. It's waterproof, that's similar to when you see a real estate offering and a two-page property offer. So that people who are walking by can pick it up and take it home, see what's going on.
The finance committee suggested we put for sale on it.
You don't need to. The real estate guys just stopped calling me about a year ago,
They're still calling.
from when I was.
So you mentioned Butterfield, that's going on as a significant capital project. It's a challenge. Our construction manager is working with the town. I'm trying to do different types of traffic detours to try to ease the traffic. So we're continuing to look for ways to ease that. One piece of good news there is we are getting through the hard rock area, and so the production rate is increasing. It's challenging work, being done while school's not in, and we intend to be complete with it before school gets back in. Lower Shady Lane and Poplar, which is in Ross, near Ross Common, another major capital project. At this time, we've been requested by the town of Ross to participate in a public meeting for the Poplar section where there's some commercial businesses there and other residents, just to answer questions. So our construction manager is going to be there, I believe. Assistant GM Newhouse will be there. And I think it's going to be on July 25th.
Tentatively scheduled for July 25th at 6 p.m. They have another meeting in their town hall at 7 p.m., so they're going to try and squeeze us in between 6 and 7. Again, that's not confirmed yet.
But we're working with them to be available to get public input. Just wanted to let you know I'm taking vacation starting next week, and Assistant General Manager Newhouse will be filling in for my role until August 1st, at which time Stephen Mixis will be, I wouldn't say acting, but he'll be making sure that everything's working and trains arriving on time at the sewer district work days. And we've asked GM Jason Dow from CMSA to be there to support Stephen Mixis during that time, and he's agreed to enthusiastically. So during that period when Felicia and I are not in the office, we'll have Jason available to oversee student things. And I'll be back on August 12th. And that's it for my report.
Any other reports from staff? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the consent calendar, item 10. Matters listed under this item are considered routine will be enacted by one motion. The consent calendar may include resolutions and motions that will also be applicable to the resolutions and recorded accordingly. Does anybody wish to remove items from the consent calendar?
Yes. G.
Okay. That's the Hildebrand.
Yeah.
Any other items to remove from consent calendar? Okay, let's go to item G.
Okay, so,
Let's catch up here. Okay.
So my only concern about this is that we not get caught up in an MMWD situation where there's different hookup rates for different arbitrary reasons that make no sense. I just want to make sure that, you know, we look at these rate changes and make sure that they're applied uniformly across the board and not for some arbitrary, you know, nonsensical reason in order to, you know, get more money from certain organizations. And I hope that's the plan.
Well, you know, we have, of course, we have a connection fee rate, it's not.
Yep.
And I'm certain it applies uniformly. And we're going to update it because it's a volume type arrangement, and we've spent about $70 million since the last one was
Right.
done.
Yep.
And so, you know,
Oh, I understand
That's
the
gonna be
need.
the adjustment.
I'm not arguing the need.
No.
In fact, I didn't argue the need in MMWD, just the method,
yeah.
just the method.
Well, I don't think we want to change that it's uniformly applied. I completely agree on that matter.
So.
And this, we did approve, here's where I got confused. We did approve a project for Hildebrand, remember?
Yes.
This was the second, well, we never executed that contract, is that right?
Yeah, because I remember, because I looked at that, I was like, no, we already,
So this is,
really that.
it gets that and the connection fee, which is what we want, all together, which is the way it should have gone. Yep. Okay, so any further discussion on the consent calendar? Can I have a motion?
I motion we accept the consent calendar.
I second.
Any further discussion? There's no public here to discuss. Roll call.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes?
Gaffney.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Item 11, consideration of authorizing the general manager upon review and approval of legal counsel to approve task order number 2 with Kaizen Info Sources in an amount not to exceed $48,510 for information management consulting services for fiscal year 2019-20.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the clerk of the board, Julia McKenzie, to introduce our guests here and introduce this item about document management here at the district.
Thank you. So this is actually our second fiscal year that we're working with Kaizen InfoSource. The first year, the fruit of all of that labor will be in the next item with the updates to the retention schedule and the policy. This is to approve a contract for fiscal year 1920, and it's part of a multi-step program to make the district reach the next level in terms of document workflow, document digitization, and really bringing the administrative workflow technology to the next level. And so as you see in your packet, the 3 items that will be in the task order are developing the specifications in the RFP for a person who would provide what's called a content management solution, a CMS, and a presentation to executive staff, so that's managers, supervisors, and the GM and AGM. Kaizen has already met with all of the supervisors and managers earlier this year regarding the retention schedule and the policy, so they're familiar faces over at the district. But you know, just explaining the vision of where we'd like to go and getting some buy-in from staff and how to actually get there would be important. That's task number 2. And then number 3 is developing the file plans and assisting with user testing. So that would be working with our chosen consultant. Companies like Laserfish are common for things of this matter. And working to create internal systems that Laserfish could lay their technology upon and actually work with what staff actually needs and sort of, I wouldn't say replace our shared drive, but create something where we have some content control and version control of important documents. Here tonight are Helen Streck, the CEO, and Sanger Cushing. We are here to answer any questions that you have, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And this is kind of what you do in the office, right? You try to keep our information and sort our documents, and also that's why you're taking the lead on that.
Yes,
Really
yeah.
good.
There's a quick line in my job description of records administrator, and it actually,
What do we do now? Just
well, we
You
have
look for the index cards.
we have a good number of our information on SharePoint, but certainly not all of it, and it isn't as well integrated with administrative purposes as we'd like it to be. So we would like something that works for everybody, and that's where Kaizen can come in because they have decades of experience with things like this.
would you like to comment? Please
Do
introduce
I need to
yourself.
stand? Is protocol for me to
You
stand?
don't have to, but you're welcome to.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and also work with the district.
You are?
I'm Helen. I'm Helen Strack. I'm the president.
Okay.
Thank you. We believe that the direction the district is going is very common with many municipal governments in California and the technologies available today. So part of the thing is we're trying to make sure we do a process of selecting a vendor that meets the open government requirements of public bids. We've worked with 25, 30 different municipalities, special governments, counties, and cities, not only in helping with the retention, which is next, but also getting you to integrate that with technology so you can build the rules inside and manage the data and the documents. The state of California has a requirement for a trusted system for all municipal governments. And this tool will get you there. And so we have to do all of these governance things, make the rules prior to the technology. But this part is to help the district complete that purchase and get it up and running.
I went over a lot of the information, including the next item, which is kind of part of this too. And what I think the hard part is we have a retention time of, say, 2 years. So I was surprised at how short the retention times were. But how do we get rid of documents? How do we know not to keep things that we don't need instead of just keeping everything?
So that's why we build the retention schedule. I'm kind of running the two things together. That tells you the categories of records you have at the district.
Yes.
The 2 years may be short, but it is the default law in California that if there is no formal requirement, the least you can do is 2 years. And so that's where that 2 years comes from. And then we can configure that into an ECM solution.
A what?
The software solution
Oh, okay.
for your records, there's a way to configure it so that when 2 years passes, or the retention period,
Yeah.
you can run a report. It will tell you what is eligible because it has passed that period of time,
Oh,
and then delete them based on that.
well, that's pretty cool.
But if you have the records stored digitally, electronically, why would you want to just destroy them?
The two biggest drivers today are public records requests. If they exist, you must produce them in a public records request. And if it's past its retention, why would you make that available and you pay for that service. You just keep doing it over and over. The second is litigation. The same thing is true. If you get into litigation, if you have it, you must produce it. If you have it and it's relevant to the case, you must produce it. So it isn't just the storage costs, but it's backup services, it's staff time looking for documents and making these available that become very costly to the district. Retention periods can be changed, but it's important that it's the best practices, it's compliance, and it's just being efficient with staff and your resources.
But we don't have to provide at our time or expense documents that are readily available for the public. So any documents that we have on our website that the public can access, we don't need to produce those documents in a public request, correct?
Not necessarily. If they may want you to collect all of them together, and then you would have to go through the exercise. But I would send, if I were you, I'd send them first to the website to let them kind of help themselves. The other thing is this ECM solution will also help you with email, which usually doesn't go to the website. So that if you want to store emails that are records, which is, the average is about 15%, you can put them in the system, but again, it's all there together in its right category.
Right. And as far as the litigation, that's a double-edged sword.
Yes, it is.
It may be that you wish you hadn't destroyed something.
That is true, but it is not as frequent as the other direction, which is we wish we'd gotten rid of it.
Right.
Right now, we've got our storage is shared as a changing room at the Kerno office. So it's, I don't think there's any shortage of material that we're storing. I mean, it's just a huge burden on the district to just keep accumulating documents. And I think, you know, there's an efficiency. I like the idea of destroying. I do that at home, you know. I follow like income tax, I get rid of that after the time.
That's my happy shred day, is shredding my tax return.
But we're mostly talking about electronic records at this point, right? I mean,
No, I think that's the issue, is we have a lot of records that aren't electronic at all.
We
And
have,
that's part of the
that
first
we're
project.
currently producing?
we have both.
Okay.
But because we're not, because we don't have what the state says is a trusted system, we can't have digital documents count as originals.
That's a bummer.
Okay, so that's another consideration, isn't it? Yeah.
Right, so now from here, once we have this, instead of all paper files, you can just scan everything and then it's searchable. Okay, got it. I like it for that reason. I'm not as worried about Public Records Act requests and litigation. Do we get frequent Public Records Act requests?
We get some, I
They
would
come in
say.
waves.
Yeah, they do. It's, yeah, within my first 3 or 4 months here, I had maybe 5 or 6 Public Record Act requests, and they can be really time consuming, especially if the request is very broad.
Right.
So talking about a street and everything that has happened on that street, or any work that has ever been done on that street. Catherine, and often actually John Vogel and I would sort of talk at great length about what videos to send and can we refine our search at all and things like that. And there's a lot of data,
Okay.
both digital and physical.
Right, so it includes the like CCTVing that we have of the pipes.
And I think a point of information for the board to consider is it's not necessarily litigation against the district, but it's civil litigation. And so we're producing records for private property owners who may have issues with one another.
We get subpoenas for records related to somebody else's litigation. That
And if,
happens.
as long as we have a trusted system, then we could say, we can get rid of this now.
Right.
And when somebody comes and asks us for that, we say, we followed the rule.
We've got
we rid
this.
of it. Okay, all right, that makes sense. That's something I should say about it. Thank you.
I was a little bit confused on the 3 tasks. You're going to develop an RFP and you're going to send it out to companies that are qualified to do this. But you're going to develop specifications, and what's the difference with that with task 3, develop the file plans for the system? Are you going to work with a vendor, is that it?
No, we go back to the departments. The file plan is the folder structure within the system. How does the department want to file their documents and do that configuration for all the rules? So who has rights to it? Do you want it to be shown on your website? And how long do you want to retain it? So it's going back and working with the departments to build their folder structure and all their metadata requirements for finding and searching records. So the business drives how you store things. The business drives how you find things. And it's up to the departments to do that.
What do you think what's the range, I mean, in your experience for a district like ours, what's the range of the bids are going to come in for that work? What do you think they're going to charge us?
It depends on what you want. So if you want a baseline, a pretty basic model, because everything's modularized.
Yeah.
You don't just get a system, they'll go, if you want to do a contract workflow, it's a different module. They range from about 50 to 120,000.
Did you hear that, Pamela?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay.
I have some questions when you're done, Todd.
Yeah, now's a good time.
Okay. So when you said that figure, is that just the second phase, or is that the complete, the third phase? You're projecting costs.
That's for the software solution. And
Okay, I'm looking at the full picture on what our district to have this system in place, and I don't know, are you going to include training too in those costs? Because it's a new system. So my question is, we're not a real big district. We have, how many employees we have, and I'm just curious, how much is this total picture going to cost us? And what is the trend out there? Are you seeing our size of the district using this kind of information system?
let me answer your last question first. The answer is yes, more and more municipalities, districts, and cities that are small are using technology and putting in systems like this because they provide efficiencies and can eliminate redundancies in document keeping practices. So that's the answer to your last question. They are finding the money over time, so I would recommend you go with the base system, and then if you want to do a workflow process for contracting, do it in another fiscal year. It is a separate module with all of the different solutions out there. So it's what do you want? And I don't have an answer for that today. That's kind of why our contract is to sit down with your management and go, what do you want the system to do? And we can take you through, we'll take them through the various options, but I can't answer all the questions because I don't know exactly what they're wanting the system to do yet. They want it to store records, they want it to govern it, but it will do a public portal. Many of them will do electronic forms. So if you're sending paper forms out, you can use an electronic forms module. Those are very cool. A lot of them are using it for contracting. So all of that adds up. So I can't give you a really solid number tonight. And that's why our contract is first, to kind of get those numbers for you.
Okay, I have a question for staff, our staff. What made you come forward to request this?
Well, Director.
And maybe Felicia and Steve could chime in, please.
Go ahead, Julie, and I'll supplement.
Okay. Director Meggs, I inherited this project from Kathy Delaney, who was previously working on records management before she retired. So in December 2017, when I was hired, I kind of took on this project. We not only have boxes of records in the changing room, but in 2 attics in the Kerner building, so there's a lot of boxes, and some that haven't even still been fully vetted for their content yet, much less what people have in their offices from people who worked there before, etc. And so I inherited this, and I, throughout my year and a half or so of working here, I've been slowly making steps to both find storage solutions for our permanent records and our physical documents, as well as seeking a solution that would really work for everybody at the district. And I went to a training, I believe it was through CSDA, and I actually saw Helen speak. And so then we started a relationship from there, and we started working together, I believe in November or December of last year, building our updated policy and things of that nature. And yes, that's how it's come this far. And this, because there's a lot of things to do this fiscal year for these task items. Honestly, I would wanted to get a leg up while GM Moore and AGM Newhouse were out of town, so I wanted to get on the July agenda so it would get approved.
And Director Meggs, I can add a few things. This is Felicia. When I first started at the district about 3 years ago, one of the first things I noticed was how difficult it was to find information. And coming in to my position, as you know, where I was filling a vacancy that had been held by an interim employee, because the permanent employee had left almost 6 months prior. So there wasn't a lot of consistency in communication for the position that I took on. And so I was finding myself really trying to, research information related to my department so that I could run my department efficiently and effectively. And it was very difficult to do so because our records were not in very orderly, maintained system. And I think...
Excuse me a second. When you say records, what records are you talking about?
Documents, working documents in the city. So anything from, the forms that we use to, record an expense, or financial policies. As you know, the board, I brought to the board a complete set of financial policies when I came to the district, because I wanted them all in one place. When I first got to the district, there was one financial policy that was located over here, and there was another financial policy that was located over there, and there was one that wasn't clear what was adopted by the board and what was in draft form and who had created that document. And so again, there were just my personal experience in an executive management position coming into the district. I knew that there were better ways to have an electronic document management system based on the other agencies where I had worked in the past. So it was immediately on my radar as an area of potential improvement. And as Board Clerk just mentioned, there was staff working on it at the time, but there wasn't really a cohesive project as there is now being proposed. So that was a little bit of background.
I get it. I appreciate your communication.
Yeah,
I'm just a little concerned on the price, and that we don't really know future expense. But I totally get it. It sounds like a mess.
It's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better.
I know there's records there, probably 100 years old, that need to be scanned and put in files, etc.
Quite literally.
So I'm okay with it. I just hope all of the management staff will be able to access it and understand it. Is that part of the plan?
Yes, and again, my personal experience with an electronic content management system is that it's very user-friendly, it's very easy to learn.
We're going paperless.
Right.
Well, what we're getting.
That's really what it comes down to.
On this, as best as possible.
Yep. And there will always be permanent records. We talked a little bit earlier about...
We don't have to make a lot of copies to transfer with a sophisticated service as this once we get it finished.
Right.
Correct?
Good point, yes.
Okay, that's what the hospital's doing. And another
complex, right.
That's why you have boxes. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other board comments?
I'd say that anything that's between 95 and 100 years old we keep.
If it's over 50, it's CEQA, no.
Do you have an opinion about any of this?
I think it's a good idea. I've been involved in really nasty Public Records Act fights that are tens of thousands of dollars in attorney time to figure out what's withholdable, what's attorney-client privilege. So I think it's a really good idea to have a record retention schedule and to follow it and to get that as part of what the district does. I also think with a district this age, it's really important to have your historic documents in order. And I've had situations in my few years here where it's like, well, where did this ordinance or something come from? When was it done? And there's really, the answer is not necessarily found, which is, bothersome from a public agency standpoint. So I think it's absolutely advisable.
And is this like a Salesforce-based, interaction that you'll be having? I mean, not Salesforce probably per se, because it's not sales, but that the RFP will be for a vendor to take something like that's going to be really user-friendly? I just asked that because of her saying that.
The ones that we've worked with are very user-friendly, because it goes back to something Ms. Newhouse said, is we've got to train people. And if it's hard, nobody's going to, if it's hard, there are going to be workarounds. People will not use it, and that's not the goal. So the goal is to make it easy and simple and just straightforward.
And it'll be like both a way in which somebody, if they created a new document, would know what file to put it in, so that anybody else in the district couldn't find it because they know that algorithm, okay? And then it'll be somebody, a plumber could get on our website and submit for a whatever permit to do a lateral project or something.
It
Yes?
wouldn't necessarily be an electronic permitting system. That is another idea that we've talked about, but that would be a separate system.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But this would really be just a repository of all the district, address records. So if a property owner wanted to come in and say, or realtor, and they do that now, I want to see all the records that you have for, XYZ address in your district, and then we can produce those quickly and easily.
Like on a computer screen for them?
Yes,
as opposed
yeah, they
to,
could even
like,
have a
taking out
kiosk at
box.
the,
Okay.
absolutely,
Kiosk.
yeah.
Okay.
Any further comments? We have a motion.
Yeah, I'd move to authorize the general manager, upon review and approval of legal counsel, to approve task order number 2 with Kaizen InfoSource in an amount not to exceed $48,510 for information management consulting services for the fiscal year 2019-2020.
Sorry, one other question. This wasn't the budget, right? This was already?
Yes.
Yes. I thought I read that somewhere, but I couldn't find it somewhere. Okay.
Moved and seconded.
Does that mean you second?
Yep, I said,
Okay.
verbally and visually.
Any further discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes?
Gaffney.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
No,
Agenda item 12 is consideration of adopting resolution number 19-1561, approving an updated records and information management policy and records retention schedule.
this doesn't cost us anything.
It may in the future.
No, it should save us money, right?
Well, we're gonna
get rid of documents.
buy a system to make this work. Is that right?
So on this item, Julie, you want to introduce this one as well?
Sure.
This is as we noted, that it's the result of the previous year's work. So we did spend money, but it's spent already.
To develop this.
Yep.
So we've talked about the overarching idea of this at great length in the last item, but essentially a couple points of information. We already have a records and information policy and a records retention schedule that was passed by resolution in 2010. So it's not like we're bringing something brand new to the table, but this is an updated version, and the complete Kaizen team, so that's Sanger Helen as well as Pilar McAdam, came on site in January of this year and met with all of the supervisors and then a member of each team from every department, administrative as well as pump stations, and you know, really got a lay of the land from everyone in the field to make the retention schedule something that was able to really embody everything that we create in terms of records. And this updated policy also includes more information that wasn't really the norm in 2010 about emails, cell phone records, texting, things of that nature. So this item is to offer an update both to the policy, and then technically the retention schedule is an exhibit of our records retention, or our records and information management policy. And as you'll see, a major piece of what was done, so they came and interviewed everyone. They sent a first draft of both the policy and the schedule. I met with, I sent it to all of our staff, met with managers, myself, to get feedback, and then sent our notes to them. And this is a second or even sometimes a third draft of a really complex document. But Pilar from Kaizen and everybody on the team was really diligent about including legal citation over it there on the last column.
Yep.
To give basis of why everything was the way it was, and therefore, you know, should something come up and say, why did you destroy this? Or, you know, why did you get rid of it? Well, we can point to something really clearly and don't need to go hunting.
Very good. Yep.
And then Helen and Sanger are available for more in-depth questions if you wish.
I'm a little confused here. So you drafted a new policy? Is that what you're saying?
No, she's updating a current policy. Policy was written in 2010.
Yeah, so
You broke up, go ahead.
The policy was written in 2010.
Okay, so this is an amended policy?
this is an updated policy.
Where,
Agenda item 12 is what we're.
where's the old policy?
It was not included in your packet. I
It
can
was
send.
destroyed according to our retention.
There's a column.
Well, this one has the legal citations and comments. I don't think the earlier one had legal comments and citations.
It did not, Director Meggs, I can't send that.
I can't see the old one to show the comparisons. I mean, I see all the work, I'm just, really into the work that's done, but doing policies for probably 20 years, I really need to see the old policy and figure out why you took out or why you changed or why you added. For me, I mean, that's the way I kind of do things. I see the resolution. Don't we have a policy subcommittee
No.
on the board?
We do
I
not.
thought we had an HR or policy.
This is not an HR thing, this is all records. Some of these records are HR,
All records.
and that's why it says life
Right.
plus 6 years or something like that, but some of them are
Yeah.
brochures. Brochures was 4 years. So I think I see a lot of work being put in this. It'd be nice to see the old one, but let's be clear about
Yeah.
something. This policy can be changed, updated, or amended anytime.
Right.
And I imagine it was a whole rewrite.
I have to see the old one.
There's no
For
part of
me
the,
to feel comfortable about voting.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to continue it or vote on it. It's all up to you guys, but that's just how I operate.
I understand. I can comment on that. I would move forward on this item and let Julia.
I'm sure that as
Work on
this work on number 11 that we talked about happens, this will be further changed and amended as modified as things come up and brought before the board again.
And this policy and schedule were all supported and, really integrated with staff needs. Director Meggs.
I know, but the board did not do any of the work.
I completely understand your position, Director
Yeah.
Meggs.
And I get it. I totally get it, how, you want to move ahead.
Director Meggs, this is
I don't know, I don't want to.
Director Meggs, this is General Manager Moore.
By standards, so.
Okay.
Director Meggs, I'd like to interject. This is General Manager Moore. I think that you're going with letter versus spirit a little bit, and one thing I'd like to give Julia a chance to describe right now is, if you could, a qualitative description of the changes from the 2010 policy to the proposed policy.
Absolutely, I can do that. So,
Before you do that, can I ask you a question?
yes,
Is the 2010 policy on our website?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would believe so, but I have not checked our website for that.
If we don't know, we don't, yeah. I would assume not, but yeah.
Okay.
So just, and the point here, Director Meggs, is there's been, I'm going to jump in, there's a quantum change here from the way this district was managing documents and files in 2010. By the way, I was a consultant to the district at that time, and our records was the district relied on. Okay. So for me, I don't believe in this instance the existing policy really informs the discussion before the board. If you read the details of this proposed policy, you see a modern approach with a lot of care taken to consider legal ramifications of document control and storage and construction. So this is a different level. I'll just say qualitatively, I'm not sure how much looking at the old policy would inform the board in terms of making this decision. And so, Julia, I wanted to let you qualitatively describe the change from the former policy to this policy.
Thank you, GM Morris. So largely, the improvements to this schedule and policy really reflect the desire to be user-friendly and to have it really be a working document for staff. So and Helen is also saw the policy and really worked off of our original policy, so she may have something to add. But first, let me say qualitatively, this is much more searchable. You know, if you have the document either digitally or physically, you know, it states what departments are involved in the production or creation of any record. And therefore, you know, if you are the manager of line repair, you don't need to look through the legal departments or the administration to learn how to dispose of certain records. You really are directed toward things that are relevant to you in the position that you have. Also, there are a lot more descriptions and examples of the types of records that may be involved in every category, which were not present in the previous retention schedule. And it made it difficult to discern which was actually what certain document, and therefore sometimes the retention years actually differed. So this is much more detailed in terms of what types of records constitute certain destruction schedules.
Okay. I mean, I'm kind of up here in Canada, and I apologize. I did not pick up on that the other old policy was not in here, because I should have called you and told you just slap it out there. No, really, I helped write a general plan for the town of Fairfax for 10 years, and I learned my lessons in policy. But I'm going to go ahead and support it. But I want to know in here, do you have a place about board members? This have to do with, at the governance thing, I just went to the leadership thing. There was an issue that came up about board members, their texting, that you can actually do a public records request on. And I can't remember all of it, I'd have to research it. But was any of that discussion, did that come up at all?
Absolutely it did. So.
Okay, and you know what I'm talking about is that you can do public records requests a lot more now than you did when this 10 years ago. So do you address that in this draft anywhere?
So Director Meggs, this is Helen Struck. The policy, one of the changes qualitatively is it applies to you as the elected officials as well as the staff. That was a significant difference. The part about the retention schedule and the policy is we put in a definition of what a record is, and we gave examples of what we're not. Texting is a delivery mechanism. So if you're texting a record, it falls in within these rules, and that becomes a part of the training that we offer. And we do that automatically. That just comes with this document. It's not something you pick up and start reading every day, and we understand that. So part of what we do is once this is approved, because we can't until you approve it, we come back and we train the staff. So texting comes up, social media comes up, any work that you do as elected officials, you won't be at the trainings, but they're records. And there is a section in the policy that addresses when you leave office, what happens to the records you have. So
Okay.
those are big changes.
Okay, and then quickly, did we hire you to do this draft?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know that.
Well, it was probably, what, under the
GM signing authority.
signing authority?
Can I ask what your contract was to do the draft?
I believe it was 20,000 for both the policy and the retention schedule.
What I propose is that we get Pamela a copy of the old policy and
Go ahead.
let her mail it to her or something, and let her email it to her. And let her review these, but I, for one, would like to move ahead because
No, it's okay, move ahead, and then if something is way out there, I'll just bring it back to the board and amend it, I guess. We can all agree. Okay.
I would view this as the old policy from 2010 is Stone Age. And that what we see in front of us is really a brand-new policy based
No,
on
I
some
get it.
mythology
I totally
of
get
the
it.
olden age.
But for me,
he's making a comment, just with Pamela.
I get it, okay.
All right, any more questions from the board? A motion?
All right, I would, again, since I did last night, I'd move to adopt resolution number 19-1561, approving an updated records and information management policy and records retention schedule.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Borstein,
Yes, ma'am.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I thought it was so detailed. that-
It was, I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, now we're going to move on to item number 13. Consideration of authorizing the general manager of the Regional Improvement Council to approve task orders 5 and 6 for the master service agreement with CTS International Fund not to exceed $125,000. And we have Jim here with us, but general manager.
Oh, yes. Well, I'll just keep it very high level. We're presenting the scope of services proposed to continue and develop and implement standard operating procedures and competency-based training for field operations. And this is, I believe, the third year of a contract. And that's really the vision. This is a 3-year process for agencies such as ourselves, with folks out in the field doing skilled work, to go through this process. And now we're in the third year looking at refining the last of the standard operating procedures, getting some third party that is outside assessment of our folks doing different job-related skills in the field, from pump stations to line cleaning to repair work to condition assessment and CCTV work. All those different tasks we do, operating equipment, vehicles, etc. And really, from a high level, this is an issue really plaguing municipalities throughout the state and the country as a wave of skilled workers is retiring. And the knowledge that they have and the years of skills developed, they walk out the gate with them when they retire, as Jim said. So this is a way for us to harness that knowledge, but also create opportunity for our staff to learn new skills as well, and that creates more resiliency in our organization when people are out due to illness, injury, family-related issues, or if they have to move and we need new folks. And so having a systematic way of carrying on knowledge in our organization is really key. And we're fortunate to have Jim McPherson advising us. He was one of the leaders in the state developing this approach and passing it along to public agencies and moving through different public agencies. And we started Union Sanitary District and really pioneered these principles that have really caught on as we face what is known as a silver tsunami, or this wave of retirements that's going with the demographics of the baby boomers, and we need to make sure that we keep. So it's sort of like record retention from the last item. This is the knowledge retention, the skills retention in our organization going forward. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jim, and he's here to answer any questions about the scope that he's proposing for this year.
So Jim, you've got your new SOPs, standard operating procedures for the new pump stations, because that's all new equipment.
Right, for 12 and 13.
For pump stations 12 and 13, because everything's different. And then we're going to continue, task 6 is continue the training, and a whole of other items in task 5, which is the line shares and money that we talked about.
But if I may, to shake the memory of the folks that are here, 3 years ago, I said that if I did my job right, I'd put myself out of the job. And this is the end game, if you will, because upon completion of task order 5, the vision is that the district will then take over and own the entire system. We'll be around to help professional technical support, etc. But the supervisors and certain designated non-supervisory personnel will then begin training and qualifying the employees. Outside of what Steve just mentioned, we have 2 outstanding, well-known statewide collections retirees. Andy Morrison, who used to be the collections manager at Union Sanitary District, and Dante Marchetti, who was from Central San, collections supervisor, are going to come in as they're doing in San Francisco right now with overflows, and they're going to conduct a series of assessments on the on-call training modules, so that we ensure that you have everyone on the on-call list is competent to carry out all those tasks. And then once that's done, and the supervisors are going to watch Andy and Dante do it. Because when they're done with that on-call list, now the supervisor will then begin training in all the other modules that we've developed, from pump stations to the equipment and the systems that they run, so that ultimately the end game is that you end up with everyone that works in the different areas qualified. John will have his CCTV crew qualified in, I believe, 4 different modules. Noel, which if I bring the silver tsunami discussion, I give it 5 to 7 years. Noel Sandoval is probably the finest or the best non-maintenance mechanic pump station collection services worker I've ever seen. And he's an asset to your district in terms of his knowledge and skill, but he's going to leave. And so what we want to have 5 to 7 years from now, what you want to have is you want to have somebody ready to step into those shoes. The other thing is that we will, there's a line item in that task order when we're done, which is called the supervisor module that I'm working with Assistant General Manager. I can say Felicia because I'm not officially on this with Felicia. This is a very novel approach, so novel to the point to where CWA and CSRMA both have contacted me separately and want to see the outcomes of that, because that's genie in a bottle stuff to them. This is a very difficult thing that no one's been able to capture. So actually, you're going to end up with a training module that someone will have to do to be qualified to be a supervisor. And it goes all the way from performance appraisals, to counseling, to leadership, to teamwork, to budgeting, all that stuff. They'll get trained and then they have to get certified in them. So that's a pretty unique one. And then I'll finish with, the other end game is when we leave you with the trading system, we leave you with the software. I'm only 50% of my company, of course, the other 50%. I think will go along with my insane idea in that we're going to probably leave our UTAC software with the district with an in perpetuity contract as long as we exist. The nominal fee is $6,000 to $8,000 a year, depending on the size of the agency. $10,000 if you're huge. But the only thing we're going to ask for is beta testing and feedback. And then we'll just give you the software with the maintenance and everything with it, the upgrades. I would like to leave it with this, 2 observations that I had during the year. Another thing I said 3 years ago was, to be blunt and honest, when we start talking about 2010 and the dark ages, that nobody, you never saw Ross Valley Sanitary District doing anything cutting edge and in the lead. And if we do our job right here, that an outcome of what we're doing in training will change that. And as I think Steve and Felicia can assess, and I don't know if John went, but at the recent Baywork symposium held in Napa, I believe, 2 supervisors presented. One was Trenchless by Manny Biggle, and the other one was the training system by Rafa. Rafa got up and presented your training system to folks. 2 awesome comments in LinkedIn when Baywork posted that on Facebook and LinkedIn, and questions of other agencies. So your supervisors now are getting out there and showing where Ross Valley is leading the pack in certain areas and how they train their people and come up with the skill sets, etc. So this is the final task order for this. Maybe next year, if they want professional support, we'd work something out or something, etc.
Can you share with us what you mentioned earlier before the meeting about what ex-general manager Greg Norby told his people at San Francisco when he was trying to sell this idea to them?
I think
I'll go see how they do it.
I was at a meeting, which is management, and Greg has his challenges in San Francisco, and one of them was this, and he wasn't getting through to them. And in one meeting, he literally just said, look, if I'm not making myself clear, come to me, and I'm going to send you to Steve and Felicia at Ross Valley, and they're going to put you with somebody that can maybe help you understand what the hell I'm saying here, because you're not getting it. And they're doing it, and that what they are doing, that's what I want to do in a moment of frustration. And so I think that's another testament. I think Mount View Sanitary is going to come knocking pretty soon. I know West County, as soon as they settle out with they're hiring O&M managers. When that settles out, West County is voiced they want to come over and talk to Ross Valley and such. So that came to fruition.
One question that does come to my mind is, okay, you generate this excellent training program. What assurances do we have to keep it going in perpetuity? How do we institutionalize these principles. And I think there's a simple answer. You have to integrate it into the workflow. You have to make it part of, and what we have now is the info asset program, where we kind of blend our maintenance and our capital in one system, which is elegant in itself, but it also generates work orders. The supervisors you're talking about, week in and week out, have a work plan that comes from this information management system. The key in my mind is to integrate these training expectations, this periodic check-ins that are scheduled on the calendar to do competency, training and assurance really as time goes by, to integrate this into the work plan. So it's just happening along with the repairs and the line maintenance work and the pump station upkeep.
Steve Mixis will be bringing soon to Felicia and Steve an initial cut on what we're calling the training work order. Employees are an asset, so you have this enterprise asset management system that you spend a lot of money on with Innovize. So why not schedule training just like any other asset you would, so that now you're able to do matrices on how much time have you allotted to training, what was the resources you expended on it, and just start collecting data so that when you're looking at training decisions down the road, you'll have data to help you support make those decisions. And Steve, I would imagine within the next 3 to 6 months, we'll be bringing that to Felicia and Steve.
Well, wait a minute, there could be one more job for you. Gotta get all this stuff out of their heads.
I'll tell you what I tell most people.
Wind blowing a bit.
No.
And the clerk of the board too.
I'm very altruistic on this. If I have the bandwidth to do it, I would tell you I would do that for free. If I could do a training module on a GM and an AGM.
Yeah.
Because along with the supervisor module, that's again, genie in a bottle. I mean, you have knowledge and skill competencies that the GM or the AGM must accomplish and achieve and get signed off on to show that they have the demonstrated knowledge and skill to function in that position. I would do that for free if I had the money.
That's on
We should
me.
do that just before we have this evaluation.
And a PhD in psychology.
Yes, well,
And a PhD in psychology.
I could do it though. I could write a training module for both of those.
Sitting in here.
I might come back in 3 or 4 years to them and just say, let's give it a whirl. Then again, maybe the Centurions don't want to be, who's guarding the Centurions, so maybe that might be an issue.
Who's approving your contracts? Up here?
Yes, okay. If you want it done.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Any more comments, Bob?
No,
Dan?
No, I'm happy he's there.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, I move that we authorize the general manager on review and approval of council to approve task orders number 5 and 6, the master services agreement with CTS International Corporation for an amount not to exceed $125,000.
second?
Roll call.
Borstein?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Meggs?
Yes.
Scylla?
Yes.
Gaffney?
Yes. Jim, what's the international part of it? Is that a...
We'll wait for the camera to go off, 'cause I gotta go to Fremont, so I'm not in a hurry to leave. But, yeah. Yeah.
Months International.
Unfortunately, I didn't catch that before my partner registered with the state.
You wanted to work in...
I never say that I work.
Yeah.
We're a competency training system. There is no international.
Okay, let's move on to item number 14.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
He's not going anywhere. Traffic's too bad.
Consideration of authorizing the general manager to approve task order number 4 to the master service agreement with NB5 for an amount not to exceed 200,000. We have Lawrence here tonight.
That's right. Thanks for sticking it out, Lawrence McGuire, NB5 here joining us. I'll just introduce this as again, a function that was set up a couple of years ago recognizing, as we discussed tonight, there's a lot of interaction with the public and the need to explain transparently what we're spending our money on, what we're doing with the capital work. And there are many examples in the few months I've had the privilege of working for you where we've worked with MB5 to do complex messaging with your ratepayers. One of which was a proposal to do 5-year rate schedule for sewer rates. And MB5 assisted us with putting the package together for the Prop 218 public notice. And getting signs out in the public, notifying folks of construction, pioneering the use of Nextdoor to get the word out to 26,000 recipients in our district. And there's a list of things that they're working on. But I think, and Director Silly, you mentioned the website being functional. I think when I came in, I was impressed when I applied to be your general manager with the website and an effort to be more communicative than I had seen in the past year. I saw the importance of that, and so I've worked closely with ND5 to make sure the website's current, that we have current information, and we do a monthly bulletin, that we try to get current events captured in that, and they help me package that information. So those are some examples. I would say in conclusion, the district is really benefiting from outside assistance with communications. You know, a big district like East Baymont or Central San will have communications officers, you know, people whose professional job it is to do these things. Smaller district like us really benefits from with outside support. And Lawrence does a lot of legwork. He lives pretty locally here, just over the Richmond Bridge, so he's available to help us, not just remotely. And so we appreciate the legwork he does for us as well as part of our community. And with that, we'll open it up to any questions, or if Lawrence, you have a couple words to say about.
Didn't they also help us out when we had that issue with the overflow? And they helped us out with the public information.
Absolutely,
They became our PIO.
We definitely worked with them on that, and then following up, we also hired a local engineering firm to help us with the overflow report to the regulators. But certainly, they're a good resource to bounce ideas off of during that period on messaging the overflow to the public.
Constantly told us that if, you know, that basically a board member should never refer everything to the PIO. Should something, you know.
Public information. Right, and that's.
Are you gonna take that advice to heart? I mean, we've talked to the press individually.
It's yeah, I think, you know, it's.
Oh, no, not since then, I wouldn't have.
Really?
I haven't seen a big problem there. We're a smaller organization, and we don't have a public information officer. I think you're looking at it.
Well, they have actually.
I think with a smaller organization like this, you rely on the general manager or his or her delegate to do that function. And so what's benefited me in my time here is having a professional team to work with, you know, to refine the messaging that ultimately I'm responsible for working on your behalf.
And this is kind of on an as-needed basis, right? It's an allowance that's in our budget, and
How much did we use last year?
I don't know, yeah, it's about 250,000. It was a busy year. This year we estimated there would be a little bit less. For instance, we're not doing the sewer rate increase, which was a substantial budget for that.
You know, I think it's great. Another thing about the website, I noticed there was something to click on about Larkspur Landing updates.
Yeah.
And how many times have people called me and asked me, both real estate agents and then Len Rifkind, what's going on with Larkspur Landing? What's going on with Larkspur Landing? And I wonder if those calls have dropped off in part because they can click on that and see
Did you put this together?
what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
I like this. I asked for a few hours.
Yeah, he definitely did the production. I think I wrote most of it though.
It was collaborative.
One thing I would say about the production of that is one thing that we've done to help the district is to unify your materials, the design, the look, the feel. So all of these collateral materials that we're producing for you are done in such a way that as people see these, they recognize the masthead, the colors, just the design, they know it's from Ross Valley. And I also just put together some quick numbers if you want to hear them about just the website and so forth. So for example, we're helping you develop the web pages, we're doing all the updates, and we're also helping develop and maintain the intranet, the portal for employees. We've helped place the PSAs that you produced with your agreement with Xfinity and DirecTV. We post regular CIP project updates, noticing, project information sheets, maps showing the construction areas, contact information, and brief synopsises of each project and what's happening. We've linked that to the interactive mapping function on the website so people can type in an address or look on a map, punch that area of the map, see if there's work happening in their area or what the work is that's indicated on the map. I ran some quick stats for the website. From July 16th of last year to July 16th of this year, there were 18,353 visits to the site. That comes out to an average of 50 visits a day to your site. And the time on the site can be anywhere from about 35 seconds to over 2-3 minutes. So that's whether someone's just quickly looking for something and they find it and they're gone, or they're surfing through the site and looking at other pages or other information that are related. Other programs and projects here at Ross Valley. The other thing is we've been helping with the development and the distribution of all those materials. Whether that be the web distribution of project information sheets and construction notices. We've done some of the door-to-door notifications ourselves. As Steve mentioned earlier, we've been assisting with the production of signage and banners for your individual projects. We've been also doing rotating monthly ads. We have 3 primary ads that are running right now in the Marin IJ and the Pac-Sun. Those ads have messaging around the CIP program, which we say your dollars at work to demonstrate that what you pay into the district is being reaped as benefit to everyone with infrastructure projects and improvements. We also have the environmental ads that are running that are really around preventing clogs and spills and simple things that customers can do to ensure that they're helping out with that. And then the lateral replacement grant program, we have ads on that. And I suggest for this coming year, those ads all need to be updated a little bit, and also there may be some new messaging and ads that the district might want to consider running during that rotating schedule. And what I mean by that is we have the 3 ads, the 2 papers, they're sequenced so that each paper's running a different ad each month. So you don't look at the Pac-Sun and the Marin IJ and see your dollars at work. You'll see a different ad in each one each month.
I'm not so sure Pac-Sun's that valuable. I love the IJ. And then I don't think anybody,
Well, it's free and it's
It's
around.
free, it's there.
Yeah.
People read it.
The other thing is we've been helping with the development and the distribution of the press releases for different items that have been happening in the district. That's included messaging around the previous general manager, around Greg and Steve, the new GM, the district's move to clean energy, the new facility, the pump station 12 and 13 event that happened in June. And then that was the other piece I was going to talk about. We've helped with preparing the CIP presentations that have been done in Fairfax, Larkspur, Ross, and San Anselmo to the town councils or the city councils. We helped with a couple of project construction meetings that happened out in the community on Butterfield. We assisted, coordinated, and put together the Pump Station 12 and 13 event. Steve also mentioned the mailer and the distribution for the rates increase. And then there's also, we prepare the monthly GM bulletin that's posted online. And I wanted to say that that goes to approximately 300 people on the list. And right now, over the last year, the average open rate for that's been about 42%, which is pretty high for people just to get a quick look at what's going on in the district. And then also the last thing I was going to mention is the whole next door and how that's been coordinated. And Steve's correct, it's over 26,000 residents that can be reached through next door in 69 neighborhoods. So that's just a quick overview of the different things that we're doing.
That's it? Seriously?
I like how you talked about the environmental ads and things need to be updated. I would just make a suggestion. This came from an earlier conversation, and the answer is no, it's not on there. But listen, if you will, just to this. No garbage, ashes, sand, rags, wood, large paper, or any refuse whatsoever except sewage shall be deposited in said system or any part of the sewers of said district. No rainwater from roofs, courts, or areas where subsurface or surface drains shall be allowed to discharge into said systems. This is ordinance number 1, passed in 1908. I think my message might be, we passed this in 1908, it hasn't changed. So the more things change, the more they stay the same. So this is, I looked up the ordinance, so this is ordinance number 1. But I think what you're doing is good work, and I appreciate especially the rate outreach was, it came off well.
It really came off well.
It really did.
I remember discussing it, I bet you it was 4 years ago, and the biggest need for the district, remember we talked about this, was
Yep.
getting our information out.
Yep.
And getting, letting the people know, and
Still not ongoing.
it's, completely ongoing, it's very difficult for a sewer district, they only want to hear, they get interested in the rate increase and bad news. And it's very hard to keep working on it. We think we need to do it, it tells them what we're doing and why we're spending our money, and we just got to keep working on it, we got to keep hammering it.
Proactivity and transparency. That's very important, and people are looking for that, and the more they see that, the more they trust you, and the more people eventually become appreciative of that.
There was an editorial in the paper that we should probably touch on. The editorial I thought was a little unfair because it referred to a spill by this district that was on the front page of the very same newspaper that was saying we weren't being very, but I would like to have us at some point discuss how we'll address those issues in the future and make sure that we're being proactive and we're being transparent and we're talking about these things. Hopefully we're not going to have any more big spills, or it'll happen. This is just, it's part of the business. But we should probably address that. It was raised, and again, I noted that was an article in the newspaper with no comments on it. So nobody kind of jumped on that bandwagon. But I think we do need to be honest and open and upfront and have some sort of a policy for.
And the elegant irony of that spill was it was a spill that occurred in an area that was being upgraded and improved so that future spills in that area would not happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. And in that area, it probably won't happen again for 100 years. That'll be ordinance 649.
I was wondering if you were going to entertain a motion for ordinance number 1.
I guess we could vote for that.
That's probably been presented.
That was, by the way, October 7th, 1908.
It took them 8 years to get an ordinance together, or 9 years?
That was elegant. Well, I think, and the part of the transparency too is the maintenance of the website. Having it current, having the commitment to the GM bulletin being every month, having, checking our capital program, which is dynamic. We just closed out 3 projects, right? I mean, one was notice of completion last month, but, we're in the process of winding down a couple more. I worked with Lawrence to update the map so that that's more current. And that gives, I think, a transparency and credibility to the district that we're keeping an eye on the website as a front office, rather than people having to navigate their way over to Kerner.
One of the items that came up in the finance committee was that maybe we ought to, in our metrics, say, just keep track of the hits on our website. Just a monthly update.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah, but the content management system we use for that, it's called Civic Plus. And they have built-in all those.
Counters.
Yeah, it's all built in. So we can pull that, we can break the metrics down by each individual page, how many hits. Like, for example, I would say that the lateral grant program gets pretty high number of hits from all the other pages. A lot of people are interested in that. The other thing I found kind of interesting was of all those 18,000 hits, over 14,000 are on just personal computers. About 3,000 or 4,000 are on phones, and then the numbers for everything else just drop to virtually nothing. So almost all of your audience are looking on their computers, and then some are checking phones, but obviously a lot of people are looking at the site.
Any other comments by board members?
No, money well spent.
Thank you. I forgot your name, McGuire.
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah,
McGuire.
thank you for making improvements. I can see a big improvement last year. I mean, I go down the street and I see people working, I'm going, I wonder if that's RVSD, and then all of a sudden, I see a sign and I know it's RVSD. So I really see the change, the positive change. So thank you for you're very comprehensive. That's the other thing I wanted to say. Like, you're covering your bases in many areas. So some other things that might be coming up, we're talking about doing a scholarship. So maybe if that happens, you could blast that out. So anyway, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, board members?
I move to authorize the general manager, upon review and approval of council, to approve task order number 40. Four, to the master service agreement with NV5 for amount not to exceed $200,000.
Second?
Okay, roll call?
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meigs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
That was 2 yeses for you, Ben.
Okay, item 15, conduct public hearing and consider adoption of resolution number 19-1562. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Approving the report of sewer service charges for fiscal year 2019-20 and directing the filing of charges for collection by the county tax collector. So I'd like to open the public hearing. Seeing nobody here, I'd like to close the public hearing. Okay, discussion. This is basically just to put this on a tax roll to collect our revenues. It's the least expensive way we could possibly do it. And so it's perfunctory. And I personally went through the report page by page.
I watched him do it.
And found that my charge was correct. As well as others.
Excellent.
And it does identify the accessory dwelling units.
Right.
You know, each, they're all identified there. I thought that was pretty cool. So, any other discussion? This is the rates we've approved. We got, 8 people, or 8 or 10 people to show up and had four comments. And a really good discussion about the rates, in my opinion.
Yeah, one quick question. So every year, this is going to come back to the board, right? For the approval?
Yes.
That's correct?
Yeah, every year to collect it on the property tax, we have to do this.
Okay, so if we wanted to amend it, we could at that time, every year, correct?
Not at this step, but the amount in the previous step, correct?
What we
Yeah.
could amend is the amount, yeah.
Right, okay, in the next, okay, thanks.
All right, I move we adopt resolution number 19-1562, approving the report of sewer service charges for fiscal year 2019-20, and direct the filing of charges for collection by the county tax collector.
Second.
Roll call.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meigs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Item 16, consideration of approving cancellation of the Ross Valley Sanitary District regular board meeting scheduled for August 21, 2019. Because all of our staff's going to go on vacation.
No, they'll just be back.
Somebody needs to run this place.
GM mixes is good.
We're training.
Where's his hand?
Oh, okay, it's
CMSA always cancels their August meeting, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to approve the cancellation of the Ross Valley Sanitary District regular board meeting scheduled for August 21st, 2009.
Second.
Well, I'm going to miss not seeing you guys. Okay, roll call. Unless, is there any discussion?
I assume there's no pending, no pressing business that you'll miss us?
What if there is pressing
Then
business?
you have a special meeting.
We
We
can
have a special meeting.
Call a special meeting.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Okay, item 17 is consideration of appointment of board officers, representatives, and committee members for fiscal year 2019-20. So we do this per year. Should we just go down the list here?
Sure.
President? I nominate Michael Borstein.
I second that nomination.
Any other nominations? Roll call, do we vote on all of these?
I'm afraid so.
Here we go.
Here you go.
Roll call.
Borstein,
I'd like to say something before you go.
Yeah.
So, I believe it is the best for the board and the district and for the ratepayers that the chair be rotated. But I also want to support the unity of the board, and so I will support Michael as chair.
Okay. Any other comments by board members?
I think we should have a policy, but we should look at the policy.
Okay, we can't do it now.
No.
Okay.
Roll call?
Borstein,
Yeah.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Secretary, Mary Silla is it now?
Do you want to be it, Tom? Or no,
We'll do it.
okay.
Yes.
I don't know.
Nominate Tom.
You get to sign a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
really great.
It needs a
You
second.
get to spend time with
Is
Julia
there a
and sometimes go see.
I second.
I can't first.
Any comment?
Wait, I'm sorry, Director Borstein was the first?
Nominated.
Okay.
Any other nominations?
What is this?
Secretary.
No, what is
She's
this?
still there.
Pamela is chair?
yeah, we're doing secretary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tom's doing it, right?
I'm nominated.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yeah.
Meggs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Treasurer.
I nominate Pam.
that's fine. What do you do anyway? You don't do anything, do you?
Typecasting. I'm kidding.
We don't wire.
I used to sign $1 million checks a long time ago there.
Michael,
Second.
what were your,
Moved and
what
seconded.
was your experience as treasurer this past year?
Nothing.
Okay.
I had to do something one time, right? Okay.
Council looks
roll call.
awkward, we're like, these were, we have to have them, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Legally, we have to have these, it's like having a corporation, you
Yep.
have to have
Maybe
them.
the treasurer fills in when director Moore and Nixon are all gone at the same time.
And Jim McPherson isn't in the area.
Okay, roll call vote.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes,
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Alternate secretary.
I will be it, or, yeah. or
Okay,
Doug.
I'll nominate, no, I'll nominate you, Mary.
Second.
I'd like to nominate Mary, or second, Mary as alternate secretary, and Doug as alternate treasurer in one motion.
I second that.
Which-
My own motion.
We're just being
Okay.
canceled.
Roll call.
Whatever.
Roll call.
So sorry, I'm writing all of this by hand.
Yep, you need to get it right, that's fine.
Okay,
Mary is alternate secretary, and
And
Doug
the
is
council-
Alternate treasurer.
great. Okay.
So Pam, when you get overwhelmed with treasurer, let me know and Step in.
We'll tap you out.
All right, how much notice do you need?
Couple weeks.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Megs,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Okay, I nominate that we keep the same people on CNSA, because Michael is assistant, what are you?
He's vice chair.
And this will be your third year,
Yeah.
but let's do that.
I'd like to continue to serve. I think we're doing good and we work as a team. He's kind of good cop. Very nice to everybody. I'm not.
Well, maybe we ought to replace you.
Yeah. No, I think,
And you go to the finance meetings, right?
Well, we'll do that.
We do that.
I just mean that you do have a role, you have a regular.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm on their finance committee.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and Tom is on their finance committee
So
over
I'm
there,
going to
and
get a second.
everybody totally respects him.
Sure, I'll second that the CMSA commissioners remain the same. And, you know, I wonder if we want to think about having, changing our appointment schedule for this, because we do want to have you guys longer term, so then we could
Well,
give
this
you.
is the third year for,
Okay,
so we already
okay.
did it.
But I-
You can decide.
No,
Yeah, when I was looking at it, I was like, I don't even want them to be up for consideration, right? I want to like establish our,
Somebody else might want to be on the CNSA.
well, that's true, but anyway.
I move the alternates unchanged. Thomas, Mary, and Zoe.
Okay, I'll move that.
Oh, wait, I'm looking at this, it says term ends 2020 for Doug. Is that puts you out for 2 more years? Is that?
Puts me on for one more year. One more year.
But we're not, my motion is to not end Michael's term,
Either.
to let it go.
And that's right, because I'd like to see Michael as board president next year. That's what I would.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get it, but, so you're not up for nomination till next year. Doug.
Well,
Yes, we can vote anytime.
Yeah, you can vote anytime.
Oh, because we changed our,
It says on here, you're not.
Oh, you're right.
no, we
That's the
changed
point.
our policy and we said,
There's no term.
There's no
That's right,
term.
we did change that. You should change that on this list.
okay.
there isn't.
We changed that policy.
Right, who's gonna do it?
Which actually, I think is the opposite of what I was saying, is that there
So
should be.
again, I've moved that the alternates remain unchanged.
Right. Second?
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Megs,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Okay, but we didn't really vote on my commissioners.
That's
That
what
was
you did.
mine.
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, he made another motion.
No, you didn't make a motion. We voted on that. Didn't we vote on that?
We didn't vote, so we hadn't voted on that. I thought they were all in one motion though.
Yeah, so let's vote on the commissioners now.
Okay.
Great. Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Megs,
Megs, table it?
Voice?
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Okay, representative to CSRMA, alternate representative to CMRSA, and representative to NBWA. I move Michael Borstein as the representative, and the alternate representative, I'll do that, because that's usually at CASA.
Yeah.
And the representative in Panama.
I'd second that.
Good.
Is that okay? Okay,
Yeah.
roll call.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Megs,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes.
The Standing Finance Committee, I would recommend, as we always have, that the board president serve on the Standing Finance Committee, and I think Tom should remain on that.
I agree.
Okay.
So it'll be Borstein, Gaffney.
And I'm off.
Do you want to be on that, Michael?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And wait, I'll be able to talk?
We talked yesterday, didn't you?
Well, I was there officially.
Yeah.
Standing HR Committee.
Wait, we haven't,
No, let's do them all.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to still be on that. I like HR stuff.
Michael, do you want to be on that, or? do you like
Sure.
to be on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna be there
Or does
anyway.
Doug want to be on it?
No,
Or if Doug wants to be there.
I wouldn't mind doing that if I'm not doing finance.
Okay, and then if you can't attend it,
Yeah.
just here.
Okay, so we'll put Doug in
That's
the
fine.
standing HR.
In place for whom?
Borstein.
Ad hoc education,
I feel like that's being handled by NV5 just fine, but I don't know.
Well, actually, Doug is on here.
No, that's ad hoc committee. Oh, you're right. That's the one, this is wrong.
I was like, I don't remember.
Juliet?
That is a misprint, I apologize.
Yeah, so that's a
Who is
misprint.
on there?
Directors Kelly and
We've done a
Biggs.
lot with our.
Kelly?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So I'd like to remain on that. We're getting a lot done.
Okay,
Yeah, I
That's
really,
good.
really want to get that.
Okay, so-
okay. Let's keep the ad hoc committee for facilities search, because it seems like we talk about it every now and then.
If we need it.
And we don't. it's
Not too much.
Well, do you want to rename it from facilities search? I mean, I think you
Well,
can.
facilities,
Activities.
facilities,
No, facilities,
Yeah.
activities.
cross
Facilities.
out
Take out
search.
the search.
Yeah,
Okay. Ad hoc for annual business plan.
I don't think we've done it. I'll remain on and stay with them.
I think what we did, we met once, I don't think we met twice, but we actually had a lot of input and made a lot of changes.
Okay,
So I'd like to do it again.
Okay.
That's
Okay, good.
all right.
So I moved with those changes,
Yep.
all those positions.
Second.
Julia, do you have those changes?
They are largely the same.
Yes.
Except for 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Borstein,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Meggs,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Gaffney.
Yes. Thank you. 18A, performance matrix.
Great.
So we have one small spill. Small spill. 27, localized
And one manhole repair. I sent the general manager a article from SF Gate Chronicle. The city of Berkeley has changed the name. It's now a person hole cover or
Oh.
Maintenance hole.
maintenance hole. And they've changed all of their others throughout the, you can't call anybody your brother, they're your sibling, or your sister,
So
they're your
perfect.
sibling. So they've done great work on that.
Didn't you call it a person hole?
No, they call it a maintenance hall. And I'm fine with it. I suggested sewer cover.
Oh, no, it's
What are you talking about?
the name manhole.
Yeah, we're trying to, Berkeley made a change in their terminology, so they don't call it a manhole anymore. And that happened today.
Okay, well, thanks.
It's in the paper.
There was a talk one time, there was a map of East Bay mud, and there's this purple area up there, and somebody in the audience said, "What is that purple area?" I said, "Oh, that's the kingdom of Berkeley, and they operate under different rules."
Next
I
meeting-
understand now, I was born in Berkeley.
The next meeting is September 18th. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.